Hey, my name is Bashir Assad, right? I hope everyone's having a blessed weekend, a blessed Thanksgiving. Sorry if I sound a little scuffed up right now. I got a uh plugged up nose right now. So I'm gonna be talking about a topic that I don't think most of you people know, right? And I don't blame you guys. It's not talked about in the media that much by the Western media, and that is the genocide that happened to Tigray women in the Tigray War in the Tigray region in Ethiopia, right? Reason why I picked this topic, right? It's because me and my family are from Somalia. Ethiopia is our neighbors, right? Right next to us, right? So we connected by land. And I feel like it's right of me, at the end of the day, if I see wrong, I feel like I need to talk about it. And that hits home for me that the Tigray region had to go through that. And potentially there's another war that's about to happen over there again, that I'm hearing from BBC News as well as other sources that I use in my day-to-day life. Reason that I use this topic as well is because it connects to both gender and race in a way that is really important, and I feel like I said before, is getting ignored by the whole entire world, especially by the Western media, right? I'm be using this to see in the lens and how different identities overlap, right? So the Tigray women weren't just targeted in this genocide just because they're women. They're targeted because they're both Tigray, ethnicity wise, and women, right? This combination both made them most vulnerable, right? At the end of the day, it's very, very sad what I'm be talking about. That's why I'm a little shooken up talking about it at the moment, you know? So I'll go into the second slide on what actually happened in Tigray during the Tigray War, right? So in the Tigray region, right, from 2020 to 2022, a war broke out. There's a recent war that broke out between the Ethiopian government and the Eritrean military, as well as the Tigray forces as well, right? During this time, multiple organizations like the Human Rights Watch and the United Nations reported multiple numbers of women getting raped, you know? This just hits home for me, but this wasn't just random violence. This was very, very organized. Many survivors said that soldiers told them things like, "We will destroy your bloodline," or "We will rape your kids," or "You do not deserve to have Tigray children." That clearly shows that this wasn't just about harming individual women, right? It was just trying to destroy a whole entire ethnic group by targeting the women specifically, right? That's why people call this a genocide or a form of cleansing, the ethnic cleansing. That's generally what genocide means. That's the definition of it, if you guys didn't know, right? Now we're gonna be talking about the intersectional data and annualization, So this is where the intersectional becomes really important, right? If you only say that this was violence against women, i- you're missing half the story, like I said before. You're ignoring what's happening. And if you say that this was an ethnic violence, you're missing the other half of the story, right? The truth is that these women were attacked because they were both women and Tigray. Their bodies weren't just used as battlegrounds. They were used as objects, not because of anything they personally did, but because they're Tigray, or they have essentially the body to make Tigray future people. You know what I'm saying? The future of Tigray. So at the end of the day, these forces came in and brutally, brutally, when I say brutally, raped these women. And it very saddens me. That's why this issue itself is intersectional, right? Because the gender and the ethnic combined put them in a most dangerous position that they are basically have no one to stand up for them. Now I'm gonna go on my fourth slide, connecting this to one of our readings, right? That's the Declaration of Satanism, right? This was made back in 1848. It was written during the first Women's Rights Convention in the United States. It was talked about how women did not have no rights at that time, right? We all know that. It says things like women have no control of their own bodies, no protection under the law, and they're forced to live under rules that didn't help them think for themselves, right? Even though that document is 200 years ago, right? It's connecting back to what happened in the Tigray region, right? The declaration is basically saying that when women don't have rights, they're basically being mistreated and are ignored. And in the Tigray region, we're seeing the extreme version of it, right? Tigray women don't even have protection over their own mind, their body. They don't have voice. They have no one defending them. Like I said before, their rights are being ignored. Crazy, right? They are completely getting violated. The declaration demanded that women are treated as full human. What's happening to the Tigray women show that women around the world, especially women from minority and ethnic groups, still don't have rights fully protected, especially in Africa or uh, in Sudan right now. What's happening to the women and children over there is very, very sad. Because at the end of the day, they have no one protecting them, especially their own government. Now I'll be going to my fifth slide. Why is this not talked about or known, right? So you might be wondering if something like this is happening, right? Serious, right? Why are we not talking about it more? Why are we not speaking out? First of all, the Western media wants to get you silenced, right? So they barely cover these African conflicts, especially when they involve these black women, and especially when it's going against the narrative, right? You see what's happening in Israel and Palestine. Who you think is running that? You see what's happening in Sudan. Who you think is running that? The UAE. What else is happening? Ethiopia. Who you think is funding them? Right? You got to lead back all the way back to these governments. That's what I'm talking about. Secondly, is the governments are involved. That's why they don't want these crimes getting out. Who controls the media? The government, right? At the end of the day, they want everyone to be silenced. And third, a lot of survivors are scared to speak out about what happened to them because of shame, the stigma, or fear at the end of the day. Lastly, the intersectional violence, meaning violence that targets people for more than one identity. Definition of that is ignored because it doesn't fit that simple category or that one category. At the end of the day, all of this creates chaos and a huge crisis that's almost not seen by the world or invisible at the end of the day. Now, my final thoughts, and I guess the intersection and why intersectional, sorry, intersectional matter, right? Is basically the genocide that's happening against to the Tigray women show that intersectionality is so important. It helps us understand how gender and race can combine to make certain groups more vulnerable to violence. It also reminds us as a whole that the fight for gender inequality isn't over until the laws exist, right? The Declaration of September asks for basic rights. And sadly, women in many parts of the world still don't have it to this day. Obviously, we have that in the US, but to this day, women, basic rights they do not have. And it really saddens my heart when I'm speaking about this, right? At the end of the day, my final thoughts are if we really care about gender inequality, right, we have to pay attention to women that live in these different areas, right? These intersectional areas that could be Tigray women, that could be Palestine women that are getting killed and bombed by Israel at the moment. They're getting brutally bombed at the moment. We could be talking about Sudan, how they're killing kids and women, strangling women to a noose, you know? Um, you know, we could talk about multiple things, the prostitution of women, not prostitution, the sex trafficking of young women and kids at the end of the day. We could talk about that as well. So I thank you guys for listening. Sorry if I rambled to different topics and whatnot, but I'm truly, truly want to be the change when it comes to this dilemma, when it comes to young women and young kids in general, um, that feel like they don't have a voice. I want to be that voice at the end of the day, and I hope you guys want to be that voice as well and be that change. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Damn, bro, that shit got me sad.